series. My name is Kasia Godzińska. I'm the Director of Executive Education at Webster University. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this next hour that we're going to be spending together. For the moment, we're waiting for our speaker, Kave Salamatian, so he's going to be joining us shortly. I'm going to start with presenting the background of our speaker today and the topic of, I will allow him to present the topic of what he's going to be talking about. So in terms of presentation of the speaker, Kave is a university professor. He's an adjunct faculty member at Webster University. He's also a professor at the University of Savoie since September 2009. His main area of expertise is internet measurement. He has carried out his academic and active practical research in the field of computer security, where his expertise is recognized as an international contributor to the field. Kave holds a doctorate in computer science, an MBA in business strategy, and a master's in telecommunications and an engineering degree. And since 2011, he has held a visiting professorship at the Chinese Academy of Sciences. He is developing multidisciplinary research on cyber strategy and more internet sciences. He is the author of more than 120 cited scientific articles, so a very impressive background in relation to today. While we wait, so I think our speaker has just joined us. Welcome to the conference. So I leave the floor to you. I've already presented your background, and I leave the floor to you for the next 40 minutes. And then after the presentation, after your webinar, we're going to open the floor in approximately 40 minutes to any questions and answers that the audience may have. And we're basically going to have an interactive discussion as always. So
perfect. Thank you very much, Katarzyna. It's a pleasure for me to be webinar presenting some aspect relative to viral marketing, and I will present during. Let me first share my screen. I have not yet done it. Here it is. No, it's not that. One. Are you seeing my screen? Perfect. So today we are going to talk about viral marketing, and what we are going to talk about is about the concept of viral marketing. But moreover, we are going to talk about some analytics relative to viral marketing that are relevant to the analysis of viral marketing. So let's first go to the definition of what is viral marketing. Viral marketing is an attempt to spread a marketing message that spreads quickly and exponentially among consumers to increase brand awareness. It's leveraging a lot on social media and existing multimedia tools that we have, flash games, image, ebooks, and so on and so forth. And the viral marketing is a strategy that allows to spread this message and ads over many different types of social media sites and to leverage the networking effect of social media in order to provide the marketing message. So where viral come in the viral marketing, the idea is that we will enable through viral marketing the message or ad to multiply rapidly to thousands of people, just like viruses. And I'm pretty confident that these days with coronavirus, we are all aware of the exponential spread of virus and what it means, and some concept that I'm going to introduce, like the R0 and so on and so forth. There are concepts that nowadays everybody have heard about and do not need to have a lot of introduction about. So what is with little more detail, viral marketing, a promotional method that is of the customer, by the customer, and for the customer. And the idea is that we will take advantage of the rapid multiplication that is provided through the medium of social network to spread a message to thousands or even millions of recipients. All in all, the idea of viral marketing is not new. We already had a past history of buzz marketing or word of mouth marketing. And viral marketing is in fact coming as a continuation of these three concepts. But buzz marketing and word of mouth marketing used to have different focus and different method. The buzz marketing was aimed into creating excitement build-up, leading to talk about a campaign or a product. And the focus in buzz marketing was what is said about a campaign. And indeed, in order to do buzz marketing, we had to integrate web, mail, and SMS into the campaign. The word of mouth marketing that is a little more older and more have a longer history was the idea was making the customer to be the promotioner of a product. And the focus in word of mouth marketing has been to focus to promoting brand value and to use the customer to promote this brand value on the product and enable, in fact, some kind of spontaneous peer-to-peer brand marketing. Meaning that in word of mouth marketing, that the very good example of it is the Tupperware, the famous Tupperware marketing. The idea is that we would like the customer to be our seller and to promote the brand values. In viral marketing, what we want to do is to, in fact, make the people that are spreading the message even not aware that they are, in fact, spreading a marketing message. In fact, in viral marketing, the main objective is to get the audience to do the marketing for you through message spreading. And in fact, this message spreading should be done as a way of just sending the message. And the brand or the product, in fact, come as a second level impact of the message. And in viral marketing, there is a lot of focus on how to make people spreading the message and distributing it. So for viral marketing, web and social network is the key element, and it's the fundamental element of the analysis. So let me give you some example of viral information diffusion and see what I mean. So in February 2013, during the third quarter of Super Bowl, a power outage stopped the game for 34 minutes. So it was a kind of event that was unpredicted, that was unplanned. Oreo company, Oreo cookie company, to make a very efficient marketing message that was a tweet that was power out, no problem. You can still dunk it in the dark. meaning that you can still have the Oreo that is black in the dark even if there is an outage. So this tweet was not really aimed into people buying the product or something like that. It was just aimed to the fact that the message should be funny enough to enable people to retweet this message very fast and very strongly, just because the message is funny and without taking into account on what is inside the message. So this tweet caught almost immediately the attention, and there was something like, I think that I have forget 10 on the numbers. It generated 150,000 retweet and 200,000 like on Facebook in less than 2 days, without any cost, marketing cost for Oreo. And if you take into account that 30-second ad during the Super Bowl is $4 million of budget, you can see that this very simple in as effective with a very. So what is in the core of viral marketing is the concept of information diffusion. Viral marketing is to ensure that information is diffused and to ensure the largest spread of information diffusion. This question of how information are reaching individual through interaction is a kind of very generic question that exists in a lot of area of science. Indeed, it's the main concept of epidemiology, where the information that is diffused during an information diffusion process in epidemiology is mainly how the virus is diffused. But it's also fundamental in sociology, where you have all the topics related to rumor propagation or to belief propagation in society that are through the use of information diffusion. It's a very important concept also in the concept of political science, and we are seeing these days that we are moving more and more into political advertisement or political activism on a social network, and as a sub-part of it, the fake news process that is also leveraging on information diffusion and the mechanism that is behind this. So what I'm going to talk from now on is about how information are diffused over social media. And I will make through this a kind of bridge between the topic of our presentation and the topic of the class that I will be teaching during this professional degree that we are going to offer in Webster, that will be about marketing analytics. So what I'm going to talk about is how to leverage on the analytics that we can provide from social network in order to study the distribution of viral marketing. So what is information propagation, and which kind of information propagation we are interested about? It's what we have in social network site. And in social network site, you have a structure that enable you to, in fact, have connections with a set of people through friendship relationship or through following relationship that enable a message to be sent to them by a source, and eventually some of the recipient of the message will re-forward the message. Of network-based information propagation is central in epidemiology, but also in computer viruses, but also in information transfer over social medias, and in understanding how network structure emerge. The problem of these techniques is that we are focusing in the analysis that we are going to describe on the structure of the propagation, and we are in fact removing the content, and we are just looking at how information propagates without taking into account the content. And this approach is quite interesting in the context of marketing, because it enables us to separate the message from the process of diffusing it, and analyzing the social network architectures and the mechanism of information propagation and the structure of information propagation is very interesting, because it enables us to understand what makes a message to be propagated through the structure rather than through the content. This is quite important, because in the context of marketing, or in the context, for example, of political advertisement, we would like the people that are getting a message to be recontacted through the same mean, and to have, in fact, a structure of propagation of information rather than a one-shot message. And this is why understanding the structure independently from the message become quite important. So in the socio-technical context that we are living in now with social medias, we have a lot of way of dealing with information propagation in a social network. And the way that we can do it is through image, for example, liking, or through reforwarding, or commenting, or all of these sharing mechanism that exists. For example, here I'm showing you some examples that come from Facebook, but it can, but similar systems exist in other social media like Twitter, where you can follow somebody, retweet somebody, requote somebody, take a picture and transfer the picture, and all of this mechanism, in fact, enable you to take one message, to take one content, and re-forward it, transfer it through your social network. Similar thing exists also in other social media like FriendFeed, that is also using a similar mechanism, where you can send message to everybody, like in Twitter, or you can send message to a dedicated subgroup of people that you have defined as a group of users. And we have similar structure also that exists in WhatsApp or WeChat or something like that. And indeed, we have currently several types of social media and social forwarding that are interleaved to each other and intermixed with each other, with this different mechanism being available and being applicable through any one of the social media. You can forward the information through blogs, or through kind of photo application like Flickr, or like indeed Instagram, that is currently the leader in this. So the current socio-technical structure that we have with different type of social network, in fact, provide mechanism for us in order to spread message. But the question becomes that, therefore, how can I decide which message I should transfer to which person, in order to ensure that the coverage of this message and the spread of this message will be the largest? Indeed, this the message that in different day of the week, meaning that we have a temporal dimension to take into account, which is, if we want to spread the message correctly, we have to choose the correct time window to do it. There are also some difference in different hour. Indeed, if you spread a message at 4 a.m. in the morning, it's less likely that it is reached by the people in the same zone as you, but it's likely that it's received by people that are in a different time zone as you. And indeed, the propagation of a message will completely depend on the day that you are sending it or the hour that you are sending this. And all of this need kind of analytics to decide which is the right time to do an information propagation. Sorry. So we have seen up to now some detail about the different techniques of using doing viral marketing or information diffusion over social network. But we have to go a little further. And if we want to understand how messages are spread over a social network and what will make a message to be spread over a large percentage of the receiver or a message to be stopped very fast, we have to go a little further and analyze the structure of information diffusion and look at different type of information diffusion that are relevant to different contexts. So let me give a first classification and a first analysis that is based on what I will call network observability. So sometimes the network of relation of people are explicit, meaning that you have a set of people that you know they are in contact with who, or you have a kind of approximative idea about who they are in contact with, and you are leveraging this information about the network of their relationship in order to make and optimize your viral marketing campaign. In some case, you are in the situation that this network doesn't exist or you have no information about it. Therefore, there is an implicit network, meaning that, in fact, it's the information diffusion that is building the network at the same time that the information is propagated. So, example case of each one of these two categories are shown in the picture there, in the figure there. For example, in the case where there is an explicit network and we have global information about this network, the problem becomes an instance of herd behavior analysis. And the example of this is the famous elevator experiment, where people get into an elevator and you know who is in the elevator, and you have a group of people that are in the elevator that are synchronized with each other, and a newcomer come into the elevator. So if these people, during the time that the elevator is going up, change their direction, the new person that is getting in the elevator and that is not in the group will also turn in the same direction of the other because of herding behavior that exists. And this herding behavior is something that is meaningful when you want to do an analysis of an explicit network, meaning that you know who are the people that are going to interact with each other, and you have global information, meaning that each person in this group is having the information of everybody else. The other case that is more interesting for us and for the concept of viral marketing in social network is what is called information cascade, that I will be describing in detail later. And in the case of information cascade, each person just know the people that he's connected with. For example, in a social network, you just know the people that you are connected with through Facebook. You are friend with them through Facebook. But these people are connected to another set of people, and so on and so forth. Meaning that you know that there exists a network. This network is explicit, but you have just local information. You have no global information. You have no knowledge about who is connected to who. So in this case, we have to deal with what we call information cascade, and this is what we have in social media like Facebook or Twitter. The case of implicit network is also quite interesting, because in the implicit network, we have not a structure at the beginning, but the information propagation is generating a structure. For example, epidemics is exactly a case of implicit network, because in epidemics, you don't have at the beginning a network of people. It's because of the mobility of people that people get in contact with each other. But the fact that they are spreading a virus generates this implicit network structure. And finally, you have the diffusion of innovation. And diffusion of innovation is another area where the network is built at the same time as the information diffusion. And the diffusion of innovation is quite interesting, because in a lot of cases, diffusing or marketing new and innovative idea is using diffusion of innovation approach. In order to understand how the information are spread over a network, it's always good to look at which is the way of intervention over a network and what are the different way of intervening into a network propagation. And the intervention is, in fact, the process of stopping an information diffusion. And if we understand how you can stop an information diffusion, in fact, by removing this stopping element, you can make your information propagation more spread. So I will not go very much into the detail of herding behavior. I will give you the slide. You can have a look about it. But I will just go on the case that is more interesting, which is the case of information cascade that is relevant to viral marketing in social network. So in information cascade, we have a group of people that are connected to another group of people, and only local connectivity information is available. And we know that there is a global network. This is the case that we have, for example, over Twitter. Over Twitter, there is a global network of Twitter users, but each user just knows the people that he's following and the people that follow him. So each person have just a view locally on what it has. So the idea of information cascade is that when you send a message to your contact, to your friend, to your neighbors, this message will seldom be reposted, re-forwarded to other people, and you will generate therefore a multiplicative cascade where one person generates a first message to its neighborhood. Among the neighborhood, more than one person will forward it, and therefore in the next step you have more and more and more people that are receiving the message. So this is what we call an information cascade, because it's like a drop going to a cascade, splitting into several drops, and each drop splitting into more drops, and so on and so forth. So information cascade is exactly what we have to deal with when we want to do analysis in social network marketing. So most of the social marketing, social viral marketing idea are in fact leveraging on this. And the different way of analyzing how a message can be spread over this kind of cascade model is to analyze. We have different way of analyzing this. I will not get into the analytic detail. It's need to have the complete class, but I will just give you a glance. We have a classical model that exists there, that is the independent cascade model, where you assume that each person is in fact under influence from his neighbors, and if the percentage of people that are in your neighborhood, of your friend, that are forwarding a message goes beyond a threshold, you are going to forward this message. This mechanism is quite useful, for example, for predicting political message spread. Because if you have a political opinion, it's likely that your friend have close to you political opinion. So it's useful to look at this kind of independent cascade model or the linear threshold model that I just described. So for example, in a linear cascade model, I have a message that begins there at V1, is send it to V2 and V3. V2 receive the message, look at his neighborhood and see how many people in his neighborhood have it. And if the number of people in his neighborhood that are spreading the message is larger than a threshold, they will decide to send it, and therefore you have a model of information diffusion. A fundamental question that exists there is how to leverage on the structure of the network in order to maximize the spread of the network. And for example, in the context of Twitter, how to make sure that your message is going to have a large number of people, is going to be reached by a large number of people. And there is two parameters that enter into the game: the structure of the network and the individual influence of the people that are spreading your message. So we can make kind of analytic analysis that will enable a marketer, decisioner, to decide if for transferring his message, he should be using what are called the influencers in social networks, and what will be the interest of using an influencer compared to a mechanism that will be using kind of grassroots viral marketing or grassroots information transmission through the cascade. So the problem that we have to solve, that is a classical optimization problem, is that given a limited budget of initial advertisement, find the set of individuals that should be targeted at the very beginning in order to trigger a large spread and to generate a further adoption of a product. So this is this kind of problem that we are going to look at the course. In order to understand how you can make this kind of viral marketing and viral spreading to go very fast, we have to look at the interventions that you can do to limit the spread of a message. And there is three mechanisms that you can use in order to limit a spread of a message. And when I talk about mechanism to limit, it means that if I want to be sure that the message is going to spread, I have to make sure that these limiting elements are less frequently happening. So first thing, we can make sure that the message is not spreading by limiting the number of outlink of people that are spreading the message. Meaning that we can make it by filtering a message and making sure that this message is not sent by people that have a lot of followers or a lot of people that are going to receive the message. Meaning that if we want our message to be spread, we should make sure that we have some people with a high number of followers into our group. Another type of intervention is limiting the number of inlinks, meaning that reducing the possibility that people are receiving the message because they are not following a lot of people. So in fact, it shows that a viral marketing mechanism through social media only will work with people that are following a lot of people. And if they are following a small number of people, it will not be efficient to them. Another point is by decreasing the activation probability, meaning by making a message that is less likely to be forwarded. And if we want to ensure that it is having a lot of interest, and the message by itself, because of being funny or interesting, will be forwarding by others. So this analysis give a kind of first glance about what it means to optimize and to deal with a viral marketing and how it can be done. And this is a kind of mixture between building the message, and building the message is in fact the job of the advertisement or the marketer. People communication skills are needed. But in addition to these communication skills, you need to have some kind of data science or analytic abilities and skills in order to understand how this message is going to be spread and what is the structure of the underlying network. And the mix of these two are needed in order to be able to do viral marketing. And this is the reason that, for example, in a marketing course, we will have a marketing analytics element, component, that is going to give some of these analytic elements that are needed. In order to make the discussion a little larger and broader, I'm going also to talk about the diffusion of innovation. And the difference between the diffusion of innovation and the cascade that I described previously is that in diffusion of innovation, the network is not initially built, but it's generated through generating interest to people to the innovation. So the network is built at the same time as the information is spread. Meaning that at the beginning of an innovation, there is not a network of people that are interested. But the information about the innovation, we are assuming that it is publicly available and everybody can get to access it. And the diffusion of innovation analysis look at way of building the network at the same time as transferring the message. So an innovation is an idea, practice, or object that is perceived as new by an individual or other unit of adoption. And the theory of diffusion of innovation aimed into answering why and how innovation spread. It also describes the reason behind the diffusion process, individual involved, as well as the rate at which ideas spread. So for an innovation to be adopted, the individual adopting it should have certain qualities. In particular, the innovation should be observable. Something that is hidden and that is secret cannot be an innovation. Kind of large spread innovation. It should have relative advantage, meaning that each individual should be able to weight the advantage of an innovation. It should be compatible, it should be trialable, meaning that I should test it, and it should not be too complex in order to the idea to be spread. It's quite interesting that the diffusion of innovation model is has a long history of study, and the first studies goes back to the beginning of 20th century. And the first analysis that was done by in the beginning of 20th century by the study of the adoption of hybrid seed corn by farmer in Iowa, where the idea was that there is a new seed that is coming that is highly resistant to disease, but people are not aware of it. And the producer of this seed would like this to be spread largely over the farmers. And in fact, it will like to build the network of farmers using the seeds at the same time that the adoption of the innovation is done. So there are some analytic analysis there that describe in innovation case 5 class of people: innovator, early adopter, early majority, late majority, laggard, and define how you should define your marketing for to have a view about this. So I will not get into a lot of detail about the different type of approach that exists. There's the CATS two-step flow model, the Rogers definition of diffusion of innovation, and there are some mathematical models, and we can make some prediction about this, and so on and so forth. So the analytics of the marketing analytics course will also have some discussion about these models and how to be able to make analytic prediction and analytic analysis of how a viral marketing is successful and what we can expect, what we are getting, how to compare them, and to use this information and to leverage them in order to make successful viral marketing and successful marketing intervention. So this is what I wanted to say as a kind of introduction to the topic. As you can see, it's a very deep and large topic. I will get questions from the audience, and it will be quite useful. I will think that it's better to continue the discussion through the question than to continue through the slides. So
thank you very much.
The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for this very interesting and very informative session. There's a lot of information. So I'm sure we'll have some questions, and I'm sure it would be nice to learn more, a teaser of basically what this whole topic is about. I'm going to open the floor for questions, first from the audience, then if there's time, and then I'll allow myself also to ask a question. But first, with courtesy to the participants, please feel free to ask your questions now. We have 17 minutes of the conference left, so let's go.
Brian, can you hear me?
Yes,
yeah,
I was
just going to ask, like the Oreo cookie Super Bowl campaign, is there a way that companies have figured out how to analyze the monetary benefit of viral marketing? You know, so great, they have 150,000 retweets. Is there any way to figure out what that equates to in profits or revenues generated?
This is a very interesting question, which is what we will call as a global parameter the conversion rate. So what is the proportion of people that are seeing an advertisement and that are going to buy the product later? This problem has been a problem that has puzzled for a long time the marketers, and at the end of the day, most of the marketers end up with some kind of regression type of predictive models that are therefore used for calculating the conversion rate. But if I take one step back, generally, the main parameter that in marketing we are going to use is, in fact, to define as a target the audience of a marketing message, rather than defining as a target the overall benefit of it. The reason is that as calculating this transformation rate is difficult. Most of the marketer will prefer to work with target defined as the audience rather than as transformation or as direct revenue. Indeed, based on each products, there will be some kind of experimental of empirical stuff. For example, we know in the area of car advertisement, there is pretty good relationship between the number of people that see an advertisement percentage of people that have the right revenue to buy the car that you are going to advertise them, and the transformation rate is relatively possible to calculate. For some other areas, it's also existing, but it doesn't exist for all product and all stuff. Just something to add a little more. One of the major and interesting difference that exists about viral marketing on social media and classical marketing is that the viral marketing on social media generally also give you a kind of very good estimate by itself of the audience of the message. While when you do a kind of classical advertisement like a billboard, you have to make an estimation about the number of people that have crossed this billboard. While on a social media, you have almost precisely the number of retweets that this has generated, or the audience that this message has get by looking at the number of followers of the retweeter, which is another element that make this kind of approach attractive, because you have a lot of basic information about this. And all in all, the analysis of a viral marketing campaign become really a big data analysis, and a case of big data analysis that involve a lot of statistical analysis and a lot of eventually machine learning after that to gather information and to use it for the next campaign.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Answer your question.
Really, that we more granular data now with social media, but the problem of actually identifying return on investment for that type of information is still a challenge, even though you know exactly who you're talking to.
It's a very important challenge in all area of marketing, and in particular in this area.
Excellent. More questions, please.
Yeah, Kave, good evening. This is Ron Banks. I teach marketing, and I'm very interested in what you just said, and I'm also very glad that you are on board to talk about digital marketing. Welcome to the faculty.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay. I said I teach marketing at Webster. You have some of my former students there, and I'm very glad to see you on board. Welcome to the faculty.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's very for your warm welcoming. Let's
you covered a lot. You covered a lot of material, which I'm sure you will go in detail in your course. But as we all say, as we all try to do in marketing, we always try to tell people what they should do. Now, let me ask you the opposite. Sometimes I like to ask provocative questions. What are some of the common mistakes that marketers do, and/or what should they not do when it comes to viral marketing?
Yes. So, and your question goes exactly in the approach that I follow, by looking at interventions rather than looking at what make a marketing campaign successful. Because a successful marketing campaign is very much, I will not say random, but it's very difficult to predict precisely what will be the success of a marketing campaign. But it's sometimes easy to predict that the marketing campaign will fail, meaning that the dual is more easy to do than the direct one. And if I want to answer the question that you are saying, the first element to take into account in viral marketing is to understand that the medium that you are using and the audience that you are using is complex. Meaning that if we are going to use our marketing in a kind of very bold way, a kind of obvious way, it will not work. You have to make the people forwarding your message without understanding that they are doing marketing. You know, what will interest people in the Oreo case is not the fact that Oreo is the cookie that is being sold. What interests people is the joke that will exist about blackout, black Oreo, and the relationship that exists there. Meaning that you need to have a lot of, I will say, a lot of sense of humor and a lot of understanding at the second level about this. Let me give you the analysis, the answer also in another context that is also relevant to marketing, but is a different way. If you want to do political marketing, meaning political advertisement, too bold, too direct political advertisement will not work on social media. The way that it works is that you are making your political advertisement under the cover of something else. This is why, for example, a lot of fake news propagation generally begin with group of people that have been first interested into the message source through anti-vax campaign or campaign related to health issue or this. And when they get interested about that, the political message come after. So meaning that you should never think on viral marketing as a single shot. It's a kind of strategy. And this is one of the major differences that exists.
Great. Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for the interesting question, Ron. More questions. We still have 5 minutes, so benefit from our expert here, please.
I have a question.
Please go ahead.
And Mr. Kave, you mentioned on content production when doing information propagation, and you said one of the elements is you need to choose the correct time, and you said that one of the cons is we tend to lose context. So yes. I'd like to know how, as a marketer, you can avoid this, especially when you're working with implicit network, and maybe explicit network in terms of global information.
So this is a two-component, there's two components in the answer. First component is you have some kind of explicit context that you should take into account. So for example, one of the explicit context that you have and you have to take into account is that, for example, doing advertisement for ice cream in winter is less interesting than doing advertisement for ice cream in summer. So taking this element of context is important. But there is another element of context that is less explicit and more implicit. In fact, viral marketing is not something that very frequently we can plan in advance or construct fully in advance. You know, in the classical marketing campaign, you are spending several months doing some shooting of pictures, making your message, and after that defining a date that from this date or my advertisement will be on newspapers and so on and so forth. In viral marketing, in fact, you build some context, and after that you wait for the right time to use this context. In fact, in viral marketing, you build your set of influencers. You build the set of people that are getting connected to you. Use this at the day that you want to do an advertisement, and the day that you want to do an advertisement might be as kind of I will say one-time shot, like the electricity outage in the context of the Super Bowl, but it can be also something like I'm saying that there is a new keyword that is beginning to go up, and I'm going to use this keyword. Just to give you an example, these days, a lot of marketers are marketing, are sending their message through in the context of health, even if they have nothing to do with health. Just because people, when they will see the coronavirus keyword into the tweet feed, they are going to read it. So in viral marketing, what is important is to have built the structure before and leverage on it later. And this is why it's a kind of strategy game where you build your position before doing the campaign.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Other questions?
Excellent. We have time for one last quick question.
Seems that we have exhausted the questions.
It seems so. So let's not force it. So thank you very much once again for your precious insights, and thank you to our participants. Few words of adamant. Next week is our last summer digital marketing webinar by Professor Glenn O'Neill, and we're going to be closing the summer sessions. You have the links to all the webinars from the past 5 weeks available. So if you want to go back to what was being said, that's a possibility. Thank you very much for your participation today, for your insights, and see you all hopefully next week. Have a very nice evening. And once again, big bravo to our speaker today, Kave. Have a lovely evening, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for all, and thank you for the warm welcoming. I'm a computer scientist, and entering into a new group of people is always interesting, and thank you for your warm welcome.
Thank you very much. It was nice having you with us. Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.